Congratulations, you landed the dream job. It's got the base, the bonus, and maybe even the bends. You've completed your degree, or maybe even you've worked a couple of years in industry and you're ready for the new job. What could go wrong? Or maybe all of a sudden you're sleeping 12 hours a night, and when you get to work, your eyes are still heavy. Your boss hands you a simple task just to get started, and you look at it, it might as well be hieroglyphs. It's okay though, you've worked in this tech stack before, but then you realize that they're using a framework that's a decade older than the one that you're used to using, and all the libraries just aren't available. And the ones that are available are deprecated. And so you feel sorry for yourself and you just scroll through all the videos of all the other people quitting their jobs because it's hard. And that is a reality. I mean, this isn't an easy job. But it doesn't have to be so hard that you quit. So in this video, I'm going to cover why new software engineers end up burning out so that you can avoid it, how to adapt to the workload fast, and then the easy way to hit the ground running so your colleagues actually think that you've earned your place. Right, so first up, every company is different. Chances are, even if they have the same tech stack, there's going to be variation. Whether it's a different version to what you used to, or maybe they're greenfielding a new project and it has a completely different tech stack, and sure, you signed up with experience in one thing, but now you got to learn another thing. One of the heavy hitters is the business knowledge. Maybe you've started work at a complex place, a finance company, but you have to have a degree in economics to understand, but you don't have that. Or, for example, when I started, it was in a biotech company, and I mean, I only did biology at GCSE level, so when I started shaking hands with people with PhDs in biology, it was a lot of information to take on board, let's say. So you do have a similar tech stack. Well, the architecture completely foreign to what you're used to. There's so much variances, even in coding standards, right? Some places get up in arms about where you position your curly braces, if that's even part of what you... And also, something that needs to not be overlooked is new people. You're going to be surrounded by entirely new faces, and we've got the entire of human history worth of of evolution that has developed your brain so that it's picking up on the slightest facial changes to see whether people like you or whether they don't, because once upon a time that was life or death, and it's not easy on your brain. It's tiring. These are new people. These are people that you don't know, so they're unpredictable, and you need time to suss them out. And that's just for workload, right? This is just the things that you have to deal with, let alone your body's response to that work. There are things in your control and things are outside of your control. One of those things is how your body's going to respond to this sudden change. And the main one that will hit you, which isn't person, is the mental physical. Anybody going through this amount of learning, and the learning curve is going to be sharp, is going to get tired. It's going to take a toll. And you've experienced this before. It's not like you haven't, it's just this because you're getting paid to deal with it, right? Your first week at school, your first couple of days on holiday, new experiences put stress on the body, and that stress realizes itself as fatigue. You get tired because you're doing more work. And the key word there being stress, right? That's essentially what is causing this. The fact that this is a stressful new environment. It's new. Different people react differently to stress. Some people get more stress than others. That's fine, but it's going to happen. And because we know it's going to happen, well, we can deal with it. So given that regardless of what the workload is, these are the things that you're going to respond with, let's have a look at what you can actually do to mitigate it. Right, so elevated stress. If I told you that one of the best videos on the internet for dealing with stress actually started with one of the most stressful intros I've ever seen, you'd think, who would do that? But I mean, maybe it's just a primer so that you can then immediately practice what it preaches. Here, I'll show you. Right, here it is. It's actually ridiculous. I can't believe that they used that clip for this video. But basically, Andrew Huberman goes over a science-based protocol for relieving immediate stress. Now, the tools I'm going to speak about after this are going to be a lot more with dealing with stress in general, but there are going to be situations where maybe you have an interview, maybe you need to have a large meeting for the first time with some new faces and you find it particularly worrying. This works surprisingly well. I remember a colleague of mine had a meeting with somebody very high up in the company and they were stressed about it, and I had said before about this video, I was like, right, do the thing. It's called the physiological sigh, and they did it, and you would not believe how effective this is at taking you from that feeling where you're really alert and your heart's beating and you don't want to do the thing. You do this and it really helps. It probably drops the stress by about 70%. And all it is it's a double take through the nose and then a long breath out through the mouth. Here, we'll see if we can get human to do it.
So it's a double.
There you go. Take my word, it works. Physiological. Okay, next up, obvious one. I spoke about this in other videos. Exercise, but not at any given time. When you're finished with work. So, say you work 9 to 5 and you realize, oh, I really need to learn more about specific patterns. So you get in, you spend an hour learning, and then, I don't know, another stressful thing, you have to run to the shops. Do all of the things that you would consider work and stressful first, and then exercise, because what that's going to do is it's going to give your body quite a serious amount of stress, but stress in a good way. And then what happens afterwards is your body suddenly becomes a lot more receptive to all of the feel-good chemicals in the brain. So whether that's a run or lifting weights, I don't really care. Try and go half an hour to 45 minutes of exercise before you call it a day and just sat down in front of watching Rick and Morty or whatever it is that you do. And then lastly, really good one, similar systems that it acts on, but slightly different, is sauna. So once a week, I'll try and do proper heat exposure. Optimally speaking, you do it 3 times a week for 20 minutes, but for me, that's just too much hassle. I don't want to be headed. Presumably, if you've got this job, you've started earning money, you want to start prioritizing your health. One of the biggest things that you can do for a reset, so you're not just accumulating fatigue, sauna. It's almost like you wipe the slate clean and then carry on. Exercise and the physiological side aren't going to completely you, but if you don't have access to a sauna, jacuzzi, hot bath, not quite the same. I would recommend a sauna, but sauna really is to go to. Right, so for mental fatigue, it's going to be obvious you're tired. There's a reason you're tired, you need more sleep. Now, this isn't going to be permanent. I'm not saying that now that you're a software engineer, you need to sleep 13 hours a night every night for the next 20 years of your working career. God, no. But for the first few months, when I was learning all the biology knowledge I needed, learning how to code, because I'd never written production level code in my life, it probably added maybe an hour and a half on top of my normal 8 hours. So I was sleeping 9.5 hours, which is quite a serious amount of time. So the first thing you want to do is work out how much extra sleep you need. Just start bringing it down real far back. So if you used to be going to bed at 10, try 9. You know, if you're in bed until 9:30, okay, you've gone to bed too early. You might find that that's still not enough and you need to bring it down to like 8:30. This is just a sacrifice you're going to have to make. And you probably won't be upset about it once you see your first paycheck. Once you work out when that time is, there's a really simple rule for making sure that that sleep is good quality. It's called the 3-2-1 rule. 3 hours before you go to sleep, don't eat, right? So if you're going to bed at 10, 7 o'clock rolls around, have your dinner, don't eat again, don't snack, have cereal just before you go to bed, because your body processing that food is going to mean that you have less restful. And quality is going to matter here, because this is probably going to be one of the more stressful times in your life. The 2 is to stop drinking. Now, that isn't just alcohol, that's water, tea, coffee, you name it. I mean, preferably anything with caffeine stops at about midday. This is for the same reason as the food problem, except drinking you can get away a little bit closer. The best way to deal with this is just make sure that you're drinking enough through the day. Look up for whether you're a male or a female or whatever size you are, how much water you need, and just make sure that you get that done between when you wake up and 2 hours before you'll be fine. Don't forget that if you're exercising, you also need to for that. So have an extra bottle of water for every half hour you work out. And then the 1 is blue light and overhead light. So no screens. This is going to make a huge difference. You can read a book. That's optimal, right? Because you're not looking at a screen. You got to find something that takes away. Maybe play an instrument or start drawing. I don't know. I'm not your dad. Just do something for the last hour that doesn't involve being in a room with overhead lights or screens. Next up, take regular breaks. This is especially true if you work from home, because something that you'll notice when you're in an office is that there's a coffee, right? It's like you work an amount of time, somebody says, oh, let's go grab a coffee, let's go grab it. Suddenly you're not working for 8 hours straight without taking a break because you're really in the zone, which I find happens to me when I work from home, because it's so easy to just close yourself in your room, get to it, and you know, you've overworked by half an hour and you're thinking, God, where's the... That's not optimal. Even if you can do it, good for you, you can't do it 3 days straight. You won't be able to do it 5 days straight. You won't be able to do it 2 weeks straight. You'll crash and burn. You need to prioritize healthy work habits. And healthy work habits are, I mean, I know there's the whole thing of the 4-hour uninterrupted work, but I don't buy it. My best work, an hour, and then probably like 5 minutes off, an hour, 5 minutes off. And in those 5 minutes, not thinking about what I was just working on, because then you come back to it with fresh eyes and you'll see things that you didn't see previously. I think there is an issue becoming too ingrained. Now, naturally, maybe you can just see the code, you know, you're having your Neo moment, but pick and choose, make sure you can let breaks. On that, don't crash yourself with caffeine. I remember when I first started and suddenly I had access to a coffee machine, which, to be fair, I did in construction, but I was traveling around a lot. When I was working full-time in an office and at home, I was just making coffee a lot. Invest in some decaf and alternate, because it's good to have that ritual of walking away from the screen, because if anything, it will make you more productive. But slamming the caffeine button 24/7 is gonna wreak havoc with your sleep. It's gonna put more stress on your body. You're going to have more anxiety, which means that the stressful situations become even more stressful. It's just a negative feedback loop. Something equally important is how to actually deal with that new work. Now, I'm not going to go into the specifics because, like I said, every company is so different. I could give you tailored advice that works for me but wouldn't in a million years work for you. But there are things that are universal here, which is essentially that you're going to be learning and you're going to be working with a new team. So something I learned in university took me from, God, I was like a C grade student to getting top marks. I stopped taking notes. And that's not to say I don't take notes at all. It's that in the time where you need to be listening and paying attention, don't be the guy sat there taking notes. Be the guy listening, engaging, talking, responding, trying to interact with the people, especially if it's in meeting. Or maybe you have some quite serious business knowledge and you have training sessions where you're taught by someone. That's not the time to take notes. That is the time to give your brain a reason to remember what you're learning and allow yourself to actually engage with the information. Then, when you're done, spend the 5 minutes writing down what you just learned. And if there's any gaps, guess what? You can Google it or go ask the person again. It's not like that information is suddenly lost into the ether. It's 2024. ChatGPT probably has an answer. Anything you can do to make the learning process more efficient is worth doing. Right, next up, you're gonna think, oh, how does this apply to work? Make friends. First of all, you don't want to hate your job. Like, it's nice to go to a place where you know people, you look forward to seeing them, good conversation, and also, quite importantly, when you get stuck with work, you don't want people to be like, oh, he's asking me again. You want, oh, it's Matt, yeah, we'll have a chat, and yeah, no, if you need a hand, just ask me. That's the response you want, right? This is a really easy time to engage with because you're new. You've got so many easy starters, like, for example, hi, I'm new here, what do you do? Because it's relevant. You need to know what people do so that you can speak to the right person who needs to be spoken to, right? Ask them what their strengths are, because what you really need is to look at the breadth of what you're going to be working on and find your go-to people. Are you a full stack engineer? Is there somebody who's particularly good at the front end and somebody who's particularly good at certain areas of the back end? Okay, you've got a front end problem, you go to the front end guy. You got a back end problem, you go to the back end guy. You start building up these relationships, and you can use work as an excuse to actually build relationships with people, and all of a sudden it's a better place to be. Everyone's happier for it. Right, and lastly, encourage code reviews. It's so easy to get defensive when you've written some code and you've put it up for a pull and somebody says this is wrong. You know, your knee-jerk reaction is to tell them to go shove it. Now you can think that, sure, but what you need to reply is in a way that thanks them and makes them want to explain more to you so that you can become a better developer. Now, this works in general, but it's especially important when you're new to a place because you're going to be making a lot of mistakes and you want to learn quickly. And the quickest way you can learn is by trying, failing, have somebody give you feedback, and then you learn from that mistake. Keep it positive. Maybe a day later, if anything in particular really stood out and you've learned a lesson and you come to make the same mistake again and you go, oh no, I remember Steve left a comment saying, don't do this, and then you don't do that thing, send them a message. Oh, I was about to make that mistake again, but thanks for that comment you left me a couple of days ago. I've learnt this. That really helped, because then you're just validating it. They're going to want to help you the next time there's a problem. And with these 3 things, you're going to be well on your way, just absolutely dominating the work that's thrown your way. But this is all well and good, but the reality is you need a system for learning, because I can't sugarcoat it. A lot of what this video boils down to is there's a lot of new things and you need to learn them, adapt them, and be able to do them. And it's quite generic. So there's a link in the description for a couple of hours I have free a week where you can book me in for one-to-one, where I can actually give you personalized feedback instead of this generic feedback. Otherwise, I actually have a video on on just 2 tools that you can use that basically complete everything that you need for learning anything relevant to your software engineering career. So I hope that video helps. Cheers.